my town, as far as I'm concerned, and certainly my neighborhood, have been ruined with $1 million homes and people who don't care about the culture, don't care about the history, and period. So if it offends the Chamber of Commerce, do I look like I care? Do I look like I care? So I talk about it a lot, and I strive to have people understand that there are words like, I'm very clear in my first book and in classes and in all of my writings that I don't use the word hillbilly. I never want people outside the region that are not native to the region to use it. Because when somebody from New Jersey or California or even Texas or Georgia uses the word hillbilly, I know what they mean. And it's not good. Now, hillbilly is one of those words, and you all can think of, I know several of them, that can be used within the culture. So if I'm sitting here with my cousin, I can say, well, those are some hillbilly shoes you got going on, girl. What is up with that? And we both know what that means. But if somebody from New Jersey, I don't want to pick on New Jersey, if somebody from Massachusetts is down here visiting, and they don't necessarily, and because I'm speaking to them in the accent not my native one, and they don't understand that I am from here and of here, and they will say, well, I mean, it's a beautiful place, but I tell you, you get outside the city limits, and they're just all these hillbillies, all these rednecks, all these blah, blah, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
I know what she means. I know what she means. And before my family was in blessed Buncombe County, or as I like to refer to it, I came from West by God Buncombe County. Before that, my family was in Madison County and Haywood County and Henderson County. And my family's been here a long, long, long time. So I am not but so patient with all of that. And the reality is that we are one of the richest biospheres in the world. And it used to be that poor subsistence farmers could raise enough cash money with ramp hunting and ginseng and all that to pay their taxes, to buy the kids' shoes. But now foraging has become a cottage industry. And there are people out there who are foraging pounds and pounds and pounds of these materials, and they are scarce now. And plants like ginseng are on their way to extinction because of what we have
whole different kind of strip mining. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's the same thing. It's still strip mining out of the area. So I talk about it a lot. I fight about it a lot. I don't know how much can be done about it. There are wonderful groups. I mean, if y'all don't know United Plant Savers, you need to know them. There are wonderful groups that when these big pipelines were coming through, and they were just clear cutting whole acre upon acre of land to bring in a pipeline, there were people on the ground who were going ahead of them and pulling out these native plants because they knew they would just get bulldozed.
Yeah.
And there were people like me who would say, you send me what you got and I'll find a place to put it. And then we, dump a little money in their PayPal account to help them do what they're doing. And there's still people doing that. Now we do still have pipelines going through, but now it's development. Yeah. Now it's let us clear. Have y'all driven down Tunnel Road lately?
The last time I went down, it was kind of a shock because it had been the better part of the year of the pandemic that I hadn't bothered driving into Asheville that way. And then I went and I was like, whoa, that's all new. Jeez.
Yeah. I drove down Cox Avenue, down South Slope last week after I went to the post office because I was feeling all feisty. I got my second shot on Tuesday, and I was like, I'm ready to conquer the world. Let's see what the hell's going on South Slope. And I went down there, and it's a place I don't recognize. And then horrific development off Ashland. So I'm not a fan of development, and I'm not a fan of developers because I think, as a rule, we do it very, very badly, and it is a toxic mess.
Yeah. Well, in terms of how that links into sort of the cultural strip mining, I feel like, there's a lot of people that might move here with the best or most simple intentions, not realizing, even if they buy into one of those new developments, how contentious it is to the locals when they do so. Or even if they're not necessarily, they might be a little more aware in those situations. But say they just move into a really old bungalow and just fix that up, and they're generally not doing a lot to, or they think they're not doing a lot to impact what's going on around here, but they unwittingly are. How do you help those kinds of people avoid cultural strip mining, in that they move here with the best of intentions, but they don't necessarily know how they might be impacting things to the negative?
Whoa, that is such a big question. So I must start with this, is that somebody who moves here because they love the mountains or they love whatever it is they love about Asheville, they move here and they do what you're saying. They buy a little bungalow and they grow a garden. They grow in their own food and they get to know their neighbors. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Florida developers who come in here and they buy land, and sometimes they cheat people out of their land, and I've seen that happen. And then they create McMansions, or they create these greenwashed gated communities. Oh, but there's a bee yard. Oh, but there's an apple orchard. And that is the worst kind of greenwashing. Now, this person that bought the bungalow, boy, this is a dangerous rabbit hole, and you may want to cut all of this out. We have seen property values here escalate in a horrifying way. Horrifying in the past 5 years. I mean, it was bad before that, but in the last 5 years, it has been horrific. And that person who bought the bungalow may have come from, let us say, Long Island, which is where my husband's from, Long Island, where if you own a bungalow there, it's probably worth $2 million. So you decide you're going to move out of the city, you're going to move to a smaller town, you want to move to an artsy town. So Asheville, as we all know, the Tourist Development Authority and the Chamber spend millions of dollars every year to advertise us out of market. So you open up your Sunday paper on Long Island and you go, that looks beautiful. I think I'm just going to sell up here. So you sell your home for $2 million. Then you come down here, and to spend $250,000 on a bungalow doesn't seem like a lot of money to you, because it's like, whoa, well, the market here is really good. Well, let me tell you, that damn bungalow is worth $45,000. In a real market, it's worth $45,000. So what that person has done is they have elevated the property value, the property value, but what they've really done is elevated the property cost, so that people who are living here in a place that is totally dependent on a tourist economy, because we've lost any kind of industry, and there can be almost no investment here that is not tourist related, hence all the hotels. Yeah. So what happens here is that people are working here and they love it here, but they can't afford to live here anymore. My daughter lives in Charlotte, and she is paying less for rent in Charlotte than she would here. And that's obscene. And I don't believe in sin, but if I did, wasting food would be one, and that would be another. But the only way you can do anything about that is if you do not elect people who love developers and real estate people to the city, county, and the county commissioners. The only way you can even begin to control it. And we are too late with all of that.
It makes me sad to think about how people who've, lived here, most of, if not all their lives, especially if their families go back in the area, are like getting priced out of even being able to stay in what they know of as home. And Jennifer can even speak to that. She's been having quite the adventure the past few months.
Yeah, I've got two things to say. Yes. We are looking for a house currently in this crazy market. So we are one of the, and our realtor said that half of the people that they are dealing with are coming from out of town. And it's just really difficult because we just want to find a little house that we can afford. And the people coming in from, other places that have so much more money, they're coming in, they're driving up the market. So we're all trying to find spaces on the outside. And we've been really running into this issue where everything is either like too expensive or it's in the right price range, but it's in disrepair. And we don't have like the cash to fix it or put in what it needs. Yeah. And it's crazy. Like we go to a house and we have like a tiny time to look at it. And then there's people before and after us coming to see it. And things are gone in 2 days. Yeah. The real good stuff. So it's been a real struggle. But going back to, before when you're talking about, back to Ellen's question and about the people that moved in and just bought the house and then, got to know their neighbors and everything else. So that was my family, like in the 80s. We came from New York. We came from Brooklyn, and we bought a old farmhouse and 3.5 acres of land. And like my mom did a garden, and we purchased Johnson's Farm and Home Supply in Weaverville. I don't know if you're familiar with that. We were the last owners. And yes,
I miss that place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too. And so we just sort of got like, for me, like, I was 9, so I just got impressions of what people thought about the region, and for me as a 9-year-old, I was like, man, why are we going to this boring place? Like, I just thought it was boring. Like, I didn't, and but by the time we were here, and it was a little transition, but once I did, I felt like I got adopted, like by the land, by the people. And, and I think our neighbors thought we were weird, but, but my mom was so enthusiastic about like learning how to garden and everything that they helped her out all the time. And so I think we just, they became part of the culture and everything else. And so
that is such a beautiful story. And there's so many people that moved here during the Back to the Land movement in the 70s and 80s. And they did just what you're talking about your parents did. What they really wanted to do was fit in. And they wanted to do their thing, man. And because of that, they were able to reach past. We have a real kind of cultural reticence here. And I mean, it does sometimes grow to the point of being xenophobia. But generally speaking, we just, we don't necessarily trust people very much. And there's lots of good reasons for that. One of them being cultural strip mining. But I don't know, you probably know Vicki Lane's work, don't you? She's a writer who lives up in Madison County, and you wouldn't know she hadn't been here for 8 generations because she has gone seamlessly in and learned from her neighbors, learned the stories of her neighbors, and she writes wonderful books
It seems like when there's the respect and the humility entering into it, then the culture is happy to sort of adopt you in because you're not stomping all over them. But if you come in high and mighty, then you better be prepared to get knocked down a peg or two for sure.
Yes, that is a really good way to put it, actually. Yeah. And the sense that I hear this a lot, and I know other people do too, is that, well, but where I came from, we did it like this. And it's like, well, maybe you should go back to where you came from if that's how you like it done. Because the way we do it here is like this. Okay? But there's a level of, again, reticence on the part of some Native people, and that's a lowercase n Native people, to really make waves. They're more likely to just shut down and shut you down. So then they don't talk to you, and then you can call them by their first name, but they're always going to call you Ms. Braverman. So yeah, all of that is absolutely accurate. So that's one reason I do so much teaching, and my accent goes in and out because my master's degree is in theater, and I ran a theater here for many years. But I've discovered in relearning my natural accent that there are people outside the region who can't understand me. They genuinely can't. And I don't have a particularly heavy country accent. But they go, what did you just say? Would you say that again? And then I immediately code switch so that I'm speaking to them in proper English so that they can understand. And let me do this too. Proper English so that they can understand what I am saying to them, as opposed to what happens for any of y'all who follow our Wyrd Mountain Gals podcast, where we hit the ground running and we talk about, we talk like this, and because we both are from around here, our accents sometimes just get stronger and stronger and stronger, because it's like, oh, finally. It's like after a big meal, you can kind of unbuckle your pants. It's like, oh, good. So I just be who I am. This is really good. My professional group is called the Appalachian Studies Association, and I go to their conference pretty much every year. And I remember the first year I went to the conference. Where was it? It might have been Boone, somewhere like that. And it was so delightful to walk through and it's a big conference, a conference full of people, and you would hear snatches of conversation as you were going from one place to another, and everybody sounded pretty much like me. And that's the first time that had ever happened. And there'd be somebody over here playing the fiddle, and you'd walk a little bit farther in the hotel, and then there would be somebody over here who was clog dancing as a demonstration. And so it really was this extraordinary moment where I realized I was not going to have to code switch the whole weekend. I could just be exactly who I was. And I could use phrases like lousy or Lord Almighty, damn, what was that? And nobody would have to stop, and I'd have to code switch back into my code switching accent as a normal and regular American person and explain, the word lousy is a corruption of the word of this phrase that comes out of the diaspora of. I never had to do any of that because I heard people say things I'd not heard since I was a kid. I'd go, oh my God, people really used to say that. I remember that.